Well, let's get back to the coin of the realm now. And that, of course, is distribution, whether it's TV, whether it's streaming, or in this case, for both companies, a new beginning. AEW, the first Dynamite of the year, the first show to be simulcast on Max, the streaming service. I ended up doing both on two different monitors in the office to weigh the experience. But let's talk about AEW Dynamite.
Well, how much did the experience weigh?
On Max, you get everything you get on TBS, minus picture-in-picture. You get full screen ads.
So you get less on the Max than you do on the regular television.
Technically, if you consider picture-in-picture to be part of the match you want to see, and it's hard to watch any kind of wrestling like that.
Well, yes.
But you don't get that at all. That content, because some people thought it would be, I guess, Fight or something used to stream Dynamite, and during the commercial breaks, you got whatever they were actually filming during the commercial breaks.
Which was the match.
If there was a match.
But that ain't going to happen here.
That's right.
So fuck you then, is what they're saying.
I don't know who's saying it exactly, but...
Well, they say it. A lot of people are saying it. But it was a brand new year, Brian. January 1st, 20 of 25. That's the year. They were at the old Asheville Civic Center, which now apparently has been rebranded the Harrah's Center of some description. And Tony has gone on a music spree again. He's gotten cutting edge theme music for Dynamite. It's the new stuff. It's the happening stuff with the kids these days. It's the electronic dance music, right? That is all the rage. I'm so excited by who the Pointed Sisters.
The Pointer Sisters. Oh, come on, they're great. Don't put them down.
A brand new group. People were upset when they would tell me that I'm behind the times in Smoky Mountain Wrestling when I would use music that was 8 years old. This music is 36 years old.
Well, beyond that, and I like the Pointer Sisters. Very talented women.
It don't fit wrestling.
It did not fit the clips they were even showing with it right there at the open. The first thing they show is Moxley.
And he doesn't make anybody excited.
Yeah, when you see Moxley, do you think of the Pointer Sisters?
I don't think of excitement. I bet neither does Renee.
What was that other song they had? I want a booker with a slow hand.
I want a producer with an easy touch.
Not
someone who will teach these. I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Maybe your lyrics are better. Someone who will run off the audience. See, I don't know where exactly I was going to go.
I was going for someone who will tell these dumb fucks how to work a match. But anyway, I guess we shouldn't sing at all because it's time to talk about this program. They started out with Okada calling him the greatest tournament wrestler of all time. Then Dick the Boozer was in the hallway with his stooges. Okay, you had asked me before we went on the air, did you listen to the Moxley promo? And I said, I tried to. They're in a concrete hallway. They're using boom mics and they're echoing and it sounds like they're in an oil drum and he's slobbering and he's drooling and the shit that he says is incomprehensible anyway. And they had two cameras in this hallway and he was trying to decide which camera to talk to. So he started talking to both of them. The deal with two cameras there is you're supposed to talk to one and the other one is supposed to be able to something that they can cut to. Seeing you talk to the first camera, just to have some variety in the shot, you're not supposed to talk to both those fucking cameras. You've seen the effect I'm talking about on various television programs. They're talking to one, the other one's looking from the side.
I've seen it on their program. That's the way they've done it in the past, even with some of the Moxley promos outdoors.
Well, he's talking to all of them. But what was he saying? Because again, between the oil drum audio and the drooling and the slobbering, and the story that he's trying to tell anyway, which I ain't figured out. What the fuck did he say?
Yeah, the Death Riders, or as I call them, Moxley and the Charisma Vacuums. Oh my God, they just stand there and suck out the energy. I had a reaction, I put it on Twitter even. He's starting to sound like my impression. Like more than ever before. He's talking so much gibberish and shit, and the way he's saying it and delivering it, he's starting to sound like a mockery of himself. And at one point, he's building up his whole little crew and marching back and forth. And this is the line that got me. He goes to Marina Shafir. She stands there stone-faced and doesn't react to a fucking thing. And he goes, "She is an impeachable character." And he meant unimpeachable, and he said impeachable. He's all serious and deadly, and he said that, and I lost it. I lost it.
We can rip holes in her any day of the week. She's impeachable. Well, he was talking about it. So as I took a bullet, and I gotta take a bullet. He's in Rambo: First Blood, and he's out in the fucking woods, and they're shooting at him.
Watch out, Brian Dennehy.
Bless his little pea-picking heart.
He was a big man.
He just passed not long ago. We should have respect.
Oh, you're right. He was a good actor. Didn't get enough roles. The roles he had were good.
That's right. He was always late to catering. The roles were always gone. He got stuck with the leftovers of the salad. But then after...
Just wait until I see FX2.
If Moxley ever starts watching FXX, we'll be really in trouble. Then they went from that to FTR and Edge doing a promo. We just talked about cheesy shirt designs of the 80s. The rated FTR shirts, oh boy. Does that look like, is that going to be the next Austin 316 or a smoking skull shirt? Brian, that colorful little rated FTR logo?
I don't know. I got a bad feeling about this. I mean, we'll see we'll see where it goes after they leave their hometown next week. But I mean, FTR have done this before. Remember, right before Punk left, all of a sudden it was CM FTR or whatever it was.
Well, FTR was over at that point, and so was Punk. And they had good matches. But this, wearing the cheesy shirts and interacting with the people they're having to interact with now, I don't hold out a lot of hope.
Well, we'll talk about the one later on with Big Bill, because I think that was a good exposure of the problem. But I don't know how this is going to work.
Well, then, so we went from the Pointer Sisters to the Dick the Boozer in the hallway, Edge and FTR doing the promo, and then the first entrance for the first match starts, and it's Pockets. This is a supposedly important show in the first day of the new year, and we get backstage promo, company mascot. And his graphic was, he is AEW's win leader for 2 straight years. Not only is that a problem because it's true, but it's a problem because they released the information. Can you imagine the WWE on Monday Night Raw as here comes Tozawa to the ring? Tozawa is WWE's win leader 2 years in a row. This is what's wrong.
By the way, what does that mean? I mean, does that mean he also wrestled the most amount of matches?
No, that means he's won more matches than anybody else in the fucking company for the past 2 years in a row.
There are people with higher winning percentages, but he's won the most matches.
Yes. And that means that a lot of people lost fucking matches to this fucking joke.
Should they have loaded up this show a little more with stars actually being there for Max, or should they have just treated this the way they treated this show?
Oh my God. Not even just load up with it, stars if you can find them, but also with something good to look at if they thought they were going to be exposed to a new audience. This started out bad and got worse. And that's what I'm saying. You lead with the fucking nondescript company mascot, a joke comedy wrestler wrestling Adam Page, and you give them 12 minutes before Page, a legitimate wrestler in their universe, wins with his finish. And then he gets some more heat and gives him 2 dead eyes. And Daniels and the referees come out, and Page beats up Daniels. So, yeah, they're trying to get heat on Adam Page, but give him a real opponent, for fuck's sake, if that's the first thing that people are going to see when they tune into your program on a new platform. Don't make them immediately think, oh, well, this is some kind of kids wrestling or low budget bullshit or whatever, which is what normal people think when they see Orange Cassidy.
They went too long. I was starting to get dead eye myself watching this match. But yeah, no star power here. And they begin with Adam Page getting a long win. As a positive, beyond the Pointer Sisters, and again, I like the Pointer Sisters, it's not the right usage of it. I like the look of this show. If this is a little glimpse of the look going forward in smaller buildings, or with a smaller setup, no ramp, I thought that looked good. Now they need the crowd to have energy, but the way I thought in a smaller building with a smaller crowd, it actually looked really good.
On camera, when you're in a building where your stage is bigger than the amount of the crowd you can shoot on the other side, that looks like you're in an airplane hangar. So now they've still got the same amount of people, but smaller stage, smaller building. They can shoot the same amount of people, but it looks like more, if that makes sense to you. It's trick photography. As the Monroe brothers would say, it's a tropical illusion. But anyway, the second match, I actually did some business, and imagine that, because it's the Hurt Syndicate. Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley with MVP against the Acclaimed, and they're doing the deal that Caster is a heel, and he's a prick, and he and Bowens have been arguing with each other. But again, every time that there's a segment with Shelton Benjamin or Bobby Lashley or MVP, more often than not, there's that time that Swerve ran out in the parking lot and just pushed them all over. But more often than not, they get over. It makes sense. It works for them. They establish themselves as stars. And before I talk about this, I will say another thing that I watched on the Christmas break. I had to because I heard about it, and I said, oh, man. But it was actually good. Shelton had a match with old Danny Garcia on Collision as part of this bogus tournament. And of course, they put Garcia over, which is a booking crime that should be punishable by firing squad. When you got Shelton getting over like a fucking star and to have this bland indie fucking mooch beat him. But since they had to in this screwy fakakta tournament, as Howard Finkel would have said.
Very good.
Shelton had a match with him that he obviously called and produced and controlled, where he threw him around and manhandled him through the whole fucking match, gave Garcia hope spots and moments of shine, and then shut him down, and then lost on a complete fluke with a roll-up. And the babyface rolled out on the floor, and Shelton was like, what the fuck happened? That shouldn't have happened. He did the best that he could with that situation, and still did. If that was an isolated thing, where it was the only time Shelton had been beat, I would say, well, that was brilliant. Even though you picked the wrong guy to do it, that's the way you beat a guy that's still getting over as a star and doing a good job of it. But then he does jobs for other people too, and there's only so far you can take that before a guy that's even doing a tremendous job of getting over on his own is hamstrung by these fucking indie goofs that he's having to put over. But I wanted to mention that if anybody wants to see an example of how a top guy should work with a mid-card guy and has to slip on a banana peel and put the mid-card guy over, but still come out looking like a star, that match is as close as you'll find to one today.
Sadly, it cost him 3 points.
Yes, unfortunately. That 3 points could have made all the difference. He might have made it to the clubhouse. But anyway, and they mentioned that the Acclaimed have had, they're talking about how they've been such a long-running team. They've had 81 matches as a team. That's fucking 2.5 months worth of fucking tag team wrestling at any other point in history.
Did you see the promo they did before the match?
Yes, they were arguing with each other, and Caster's being a prick, and he's the best wrestler in the world, and Bowens is fed up with him.
He had one of my favorite, I don't even know if it's a line or just the way he did it, because I always want someone to do something like this. He goes, I'm the best wrestler in the world, and Bowens stops him and starts giving him a hard time. And Caster says, now? when we're doing our interview? Like, you had all week. Now, you know what? Seriously, that more people should say that. Caster's in maybe the best shape he's been in. I have no idea what the hell they're doing with him.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is they're not only turning him, but they're making him out to be an asshole that you don't like and a heel that you wouldn't give a shit about. An idiot.
Yeah.
And so basically, Bobby beat up Caster for a while and the fans were chanting, Bobby, Bobby. And then Bowens got in with Shelton. And again, you remember when I was talking before about somebody went back and did the same thing that they had just fucked up and told the people blatantly that they had fucked it up by going back and doing the same thing? The Acclaimed were trying to do a blind tag, but Shelton was backing up Bowens, but Caster was on the wrong side of the ring post, and he tried to step up on the ropes and reach over and tag Bowens' shoulder, which none of that would have been illegal anyway. Your feet have to be on the apron, and you got to tag hand to hand. But he couldn't fucking reach him. And Shelton had to just shoot him off, and then Bowens, they were trying to shoot him up, but Bowens realized that he hadn't been tagged, and he stopped, and it was awkward, and they went back into it. And as they were going back into it, Caster goes around to the proper side of the ring post and shows her, oh, he was on the wrong side. And they did the exact same thing, where now Caster slaps Bowens on the shoulder, and Bowens is mad that Caster tagged himself in. But they can't even goddamn call something else in the ring when they fucked one thing up to get to the same place. And if they don't know how to do a blind tag, somebody, a producer, for instance, could have illustrated, hey, numbnuts, if the guy's got you in a headlock, then you need to be on this side of the post or that side of the post, and you need to reach out this way. Or if the guy's going to shoot you off, you got to be on the other side. But they're just... So then Shelton did 4 German suplexes on Caster while Bowens walked out because he was mad at him. And then Lashley destroyed Caster and Hurt locked him, and they beat him. So that was fine. The Hurt Syndicate was not damaged in this, but Caster must have really pissed these people off because they're actively trying to make people say, fuck this fucking guy.
It's a weird, I guess slow build isn't the right word. It's a weird, slow train wreck, I guess, maybe watching the Acclaim break up, right? I mean, it's been going on for a little while. Started calling himself the best wrestler alive or whatever months ago. But this is being done in such a weird way. You know, with someone like Caster, who keeps getting in trouble for shit he says, and people know that, fucking run with that. Not to say he's Brian Pillman or anything, but if people know the guy keeps getting in trouble and you plan to continue to employ him, why not do something with that instead of making him... They turned him into a jerk-off character because he's a fool now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're not trying to make a heel that will draw money or sell tickets. They have said, we hate this fucking guy and we want to make him go out on television and either act as stupid as possible or we want to treat him as badly as possible. Or they just don't know how to book anything. One or the other.
The fans really reacted to the Hurt Syndicate. Again, they continue to, like their stars. There was a spot, a little thing I liked, where Shelton and Bowens bumped into each other, but Shelton didn't move. Shelton didn't flinch, even though Bowens is kind of the, I guess you would say he's the power guy of the tag team, even though Caster's a bigger guy, but Bowens kind of wrestles like that. Shelton didn't move, and Shelton shouldn't. Shelton's been treated, other than like a loss to a Daniel Garcia or a very, very long match with a commander or shit like that, Shelton's been used better here, and because of that, he's come across, I think, as a bigger star so far.
Well, yeah, and it's not the way he's being used, it's the way he's performing. Right now, Shelton Benjamin is the best wrestler in AEW. I can make that blanket statement because think about it. Who else has come in and 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later, has been even more over, has more interest, has gotten over by his matches as a top guy that you would believe in than Shelton Benjamin has. Everybody else comes in, and within weeks, people can't stand them. Or they're the shits. Or nobody cares.
Well, maybe a Hechachero.
Oh, come on.
No, but seriously, from the moment they walk out, I'm not crazy about the music, to be honest with you. But
No.
from the moment they walk out.
It's not the Pointer Sisters.
When they walk out MVP with Lashley and Shelton right there, I mean, they look like stars. They look like they should be kicking everyone's ass, and so far they have.
Yeah. But that's why I'm saying Shelton Benjamin is the best wrestler in AEW right now, because he is the only one that has come in, and I don't know how long, and done what you're supposed to do, which is go out and have matches that get yourself over as a legitimate threat to anybody. He's not been helped by the booking. He hasn't been tremendously hurt by it. And most of the people didn't see him get beat by some of these, jobbers. But he's the only one. So he's the best wrestler in AEW right now. He's the only one doing what he's supposed to do. Sorry. But now he's got competition, Brian, as best wrestler at AEW, because the next match was Jamie Hayter versus Julia Hart.
Oh, man.
Oh, come on. Did I miss anything involved in this? Well, tell me what I missed until I got to the finish, which I got to as quickly as possible.
Jamie Hayter is like, I don't know. She used to be out there looking like a badass. I think she had a little more weight at that time, but also just the look, what she was wearing, her hair. Like plaid and glitter. I don't know. Like she looks like a hostess at the fucking pancake cottage with a wedgie. And I like Jamie Hayter, but her look since she's returned is just, I think, she loses some of her charisma, I guess is the way I want to say it. But the match was all right, I guess. It went a while. Went through a commercial break.
Yeah.
And Julia Hart sprayed the mist.
Well, wait a minute, Donda. You're jumping ahead, because first she got an arrow.
Yes, she's known for her archery. She's trying to win her way to your heart.
Yes, Archer Hart. She gets an arrow and brings it into the ring, and referee Aubried, she's on the spot as usual. She was right there, and she gets the arrow and is going to hand the arrow out. And as she turns her back, Julia Hart spits. It was called mist. It was allegedly mist.
I didn't see anything.
Well, she spit it in Jamie Hayter's face, but either there was something and I think, did she maybe spit the whole fucking rubber out? Because
well, explain yourself, please, before you get in trouble.
No, but she had to, because there was no mist on her mouth. There was no mist on Jamie Hayter's face. There was no mist on the mat or anybody's hands. I think she tried to bite the fucking rubber and spit the mist and spit the whole fucking rubber out.
For people who don't know, that's the way to do it. You load up a condom.
Yeah. Well, who doesn't know that?
Has anyone ever just spit out the condom before?
Yes. It can happen. And also, if you take the Alka-Seltzer, so you foam at the mouth, sometimes you spit the fucking Alka-Seltzer out. But because there was no mist in her mouth, at all, on her chin, nothing on anybody's hands, nothing. And Jamie Hayter kept her face covered up with her hands as she was rolling around and selling, so nobody could see it. But there was no mist. But the announcer, the mist, and it burns. So maybe instead of it just either that, or they're just ribbing Julia Hart, telling her, keep putting these rubbers in your mouth for practice.
Well, Julia Hart got the win, and then, of course...
I wonder what they've knotted up in those things.
She lip-synced her song afterwards, of course, and that was her big return. Welcome back, 2025, Julia Hart.
Well, and then we got packages on Felcher and Osprey and Okada and Kenny, because those are the rivalries we have to look forward to, I guess, while WWE has Punk and Rollins. Okay, why did Mercedes Mone need the special table set up in the ring with her display of belts that she's gotten from various sources that nobody cares about, and the champagne bottle and the fucking champagne glass. And she came out to cut a promo basically saying she's wrestling old Mina Melons in the Tokyo Dome Saturday for another promotion, New Japan, and she wants the Rev Pro Championship, whatever that may be, to add to her women's title in AEW and her New Japan Strong Women Championship. And it's going to be title versus title with old Mina Melons. And then she drank champagne and did the stripper dance and left.
Well, they also had a video.
fans-
They had a video of her in 2024, some of her big matches, and there was not a sign of Camille anywhere.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's old news under the bridge and around the corner of the bend and down the stream. That Camille's gone. She escaped. Who knows what kind of paperwork was signed for her not to reveal how she managed to get out of there so quick. And that's another thing. How many guys and or girls are sitting there under the contract? I know a bunch of them are just saying, hey, this guy will pay me no matter what happens as long as I just sit here. But some of them want to get out of there. Some of them want to escape.
There's a lot. More than people realize, yeah.
Then I wonder how much dissension that has spread when Camille was able to fucking get the fuck out of there.
Well, again, let's find out what happened. We still don't know where Odyssey Jones went. But back to this Mercedes Mone.
Well, no, we know why Odyssey Jones went.
We think we do. That's never been confirmed, has it?
Well, at least it was suspected. Nobody has said Camille was on the lam from the FBI or fucking engaged in international terrorism or some unsavory activity. We know that she was brought in, booked to the moon for 2 weeks, flummoxed and fumbled, made to look like an idiot. And just when we were saying, my God, can't she get out of there before it ruins her career? She's gone, and they don't even mention her name anymore.
This promo, though, after they show the video, she's standing there and she does this promo on Mina Shirakawa and the Tokyo Dome match. They put up a graphic in the lower left-hand corner for the Tokyo Dome match. I'm like, I don't even think about it being this weekend. I don't even think about New Japan anymore. Maybe I'll get it. But it didn't say available on pay-per-view. It didn't say stream here. Nothing. They were basically advertising a match that if you were in the general vicinity of Tokyo.
Are you ribbing me?
No. Did you see anything that said available on pay-per-view?
Well, no, but I wasn't looking because I don't intend to fucking look at it. If it's available on every fucking channel, I'll turn the TV off. But
as I'm looking at the graphic and I'm thinking, man, this match isn't available anywhere. Then she goes, and I want you to put up the Rev Pro title. To no reaction because no one's ever heard of this belt. It's never been mentioned before. So again, they're plugging another company's show,
But they're actually selling a show in another country that you can't even watch?
Hold on, let's see. Wrestle Kingdom. They didn't say you could watch it, so Wrestle Kingdom.
What the fuck? Just so they can masturbate to the idea that they're getting to work in Japan?
You could watch it apparently on Triller.
Oh boy.
Or on, well, this can't be right, New Japan World. See, it says RTN Horse Racing and the Disc Golf Network. I don't know if these are just other networks. But they didn't say any of that. They basically just put up a graphic for a match that they're not going to have on AEW TV. For a title that's not an AEW title. It's not even a New Japan title. That's the lack of focus there. Even if Tony wants to let these people do all these things, how does it help them for any viewer who's tuning in to ever follow along and care enough if it's just referencing all sorts of shit you can't keep up with? Because it's not even on the show. So, yeah. They advertise the match that's not available.
Well, yeah, I wish more of them were like that. But then we got to 9 o'clock and we got to see the equivalent of an Eddie Graham charitable presentation on Florida Championship Wrestling. Dax and Cash. I think Dax was the one that I noted was there, presenting a $25,000 check for Asheville's hurricane recovery and relief. That was very nice. And they live there and they've been spearheading that.
Did you see when they showed the first responders in the building?
No, I didn't see that because I've zipped through the commercial breaks until I see what I believe to be a wrestler, and then I stop. And so some of that went by. I was watching a commercial. Me and Stace both were thinking, is this part of the wrestling? And then it was a commercial. So I didn't see that part.
You sure it was a commercial or a teaser for Bandito coming back again? But
no, I have a feeling it'll be a while before he comes back again.
I'm not sure, but so they show all this stuff, and it's nice. It's wonderful that AEW is being supportive of the community there and that things are getting done. I just saw a video that, like, the Amish showed up and in like a couple of days built like
what made them furniture? What did
they built 80 little houses in like 2 days or something like that. Yeah, they just came and built, small little housing.
Say what you want to about them fucking Amish, but they're dedicated.
Oh man, if you can get Amish book cabinets, those are the best ones.
They're just not allowed to read any of the books that rest on the bookshelves. But the presentation, the first responders.
Oh, so then they go back to the building and they say, here we have some of Asheville's first responders, whatever the fuck he says. I guess it was supposed to be like someone from whatever. There were 4 guys standing there in darkness. So the camera's filming them. You can't see any of their faces. It's just 4 silhouettes standing there for like a minute. And they're like, here are the first responders. And you can't see who any of them are.
They're able to respond so quickly because they're mere shadows that just fly around.
Yes.
They can appear out of nowhere. Well, you'll be happy to know that Officer Bar Brady got together with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong, and they're back together. That trio of miscreants. And they got a 3-way match coming up here that it was next after this interview, where Roderick Strong was going to wrestle Jay White, was going to wrestle Swerve Strickland, and the winner of the 3-way gets into next week's Casino Gauntlet match to determine the winner of that will get a world title match the following week on TV. I believe I covered that correctly, didn't I?
Yes, the Casino Gauntlet is back.
Just what we needed. And I swear to God, again, it's a 3-way match. Make of it what you will, with confusing stipulations of the guy goes into the Casino Gauntlet. And last time Roddy was in a Casino Gauntlet match, Brian, he didn't even get to get in it because it ended before he got in it, which is another thing that's wrong with their fucking match. But finally, Swerve is on the floor, and from the crowd, Ricochet runs up to the rail behind him wearing a suit and stabs him in the head with golden scissors. Wasn't that a Beatles song? Golden scissors in your head.
It was golden slumbers, and it wasn't in your head.
Well, I was slumbering by this point because it was so boring, but he stabbed him in the head with the golden scissors and then was standing there at the rail literally 1 foot away from the people in the front row, and the fans were standing next to him just staring at him. And one guy's got his phone up just lackadaisically. Oh, they're next to me. He's stabbing people in the head with scissors, and they don't care.
Where's security?
Obviously, the security in Asheville's gone downhill. Where's Doug Dillinger when you need him? And I told Stace, I pointed, I backed it up. I said, look at this. I've been in that building a bunch of times, and I guarantee you, if I had come up on the fan side of the railing and grabbed Ricky Morton and stabbed him in the head with scissors, I wouldn't have got out of there alive after the next 15 seconds. They would have been on me like duck on a June bug, like ugly on an ape, like white on rice, like bad booking in AEW. And then Jay White hit Roderick Strong with his finish, 1, 2, 3, and left. And then you see that Swerve got juice, and Ricochet is still standing there, now goes after Swerve with the scissors. And there's Prince Nana. And he goes up to Ricochet, and Ricochet stood him off by pointing the scissors at him. So Nana just stood there and watched Ricochet stab Swerve and punch him. And remember, I've told you, just because the the manager is not supposed to be able to beat up a wrestler doesn't mean when it's a babyface manager he should not try to in some way help his friend. But he stands there through all that. He's stabbing him in the head with scissors. Then when Ricochet goes and gets a chair, that's when Nana springs into action. And he grabs the chair away from, or tries to, from Ricochet. So Ricochet shoves Nana into the stairs and takes the chair and hits him with it. And then takes the chair in the ring and unfolds it and sits next to Swerve and headbutts him so he can get his blood on his suit. And then puts Swerve in the chair. And Swerve is sitting there like an imbecile while Ricochet backed all the way up across the ring and ran and clotheslined him while he was looking at him coming. And then Roddy and Cole and Kyle O'Reilly get in the ring and Ricochet bails out. And the fans were standing there silent, immobile, faintly smiling. What are they doing?
I don't know. I get the idea of wanting to do hot angles where baby faces get brutalized. We also saw Tommy Rich bleed all over the place for years. But the fans weren't really reacting. The babyface that made the save, kind of recent baby faces that the fans haven't taken to in the Undisputed Kingdom.
That do nothing but get the shit kicked out of them.
And yeah, security does nothing. He stabs the guy. How many times have we seen Swerve down and out now? See, that's the thing. Like I said, I see doing that with a babyface and the value in it. I don't think it's working here.
Swerve is not the traditional babyface since he's the home invader and the baby threatener and the most dangerous man in AEW. How is he the most dangerous man? Bad things will happen to you if you're close to him? Because he's always getting a shit kicked out of him and you'll catch some of it?
Yeah, the fans started reacting to him when he was a bad guy. Then they made him a babyface getting his ass kicked. They're not reacting the same way anymore.
They like Swerve's house because that's their part. That's their line. They all want to be, let's face it, the prime AEW audience is marks that want to be in the ring, like the ones that are already in the ring. And they identify with some of these marks that are already in the ring because they think if this guy can do it, I can. Anybody can. So they want their audience participation. And it's the same thing in a lot of cases with the Cody Rhodes, whoa, or the Seth Rollins, whoa, or whatever. They like the audience participation, but that's all Swerve's got now, is they want to chant Swerve's house. And otherwise, they need to call Swerve a fucking ambulance every week.
Yeah. You think he regrets throwing that toilet paper at Ricochet a couple of days before this?
Well, he brought it on himself now that you think about it. If he hadn't opened his big mouth in his big bathroom and brought out all that toilet paper, then Ricochet wouldn't have had to stab him in the head with scissors.
It really hit me this week, too, coming out of the pay-per-view. They had such a long gap between the pay-per-view and Dynamite, it didn't feel like they had any momentum coming out of it to carry into Dynamite. It would be one thing if Dynamite was on Monday. But being on Wednesday and the pay-per-view Saturday, and then none of the people, MJF wasn't at Dynamite Live, Kenny wasn't there. I don't know. It felt like they didn't really, if they had any momentum coming out of that pay-per-view, they didn't capitalize on it.
Well, I think they had a lot of momentum and all of it was slow. And then the next segment puzzled me, and I like Jeff Jarrett. I'm a fan of his work and I'm a fan of what he's done in the business. And in my opinion, they should have had him at least promoting live events or agenting some matches or trying to teach some of these dumb shits how to work a long time ago. But I don't understand what they did here, because it's going to lead to having to look at Jeff Jarrett versus Dick the Boozer if it's followed through on. And I feel sorry for Jeff that at this point in his life that he has to tolerate having to work with a fucking louse like that. But I don't know that it's going to do any good for AEW, or more just tear down somebody else that's having to get in the ring with the plumber. But they did the backstage interview with Lethal and Sanjay and Zippy the Pinhead, and they haven't seen Jeff, but then Jeff comes in and they know it's a big night for Jeff, but they were beating around the bush without saying what was going on. And They said, well, we can't find Karen. Jeff said, can you find Karen?
That's what Kurt said.
Well, hey, not at the DoubleTree. And then Karen comes in and says, I know wrestling is what brought us together, but it's also sometimes I've seen it tear you apart. And I'll support you. She pledged her undying love with whatever he was going to do, if he was going to go through with this, whatever this was. So then they go to a break and they come back, and Jeff comes to the ring with his boots in his hand and a guitar on a stand. So now he's got the boots in his hand. You know, he's teasing his retirement. And he got emotional and said he had a lot in his career to be thankful for. And it's sad to think about things maybe coming to an end. And he gave the history of the Jarrett family. Started in 1946 in Nashville when his grandmother took a second job selling tickets. We've covered it in more detail than they have on their program. And it changed his family's life. And
I never heard her called the CFO before.
Well, chief financial officer, she was the one that kept the books for Nick and Roy.
No, I know she was. I just never heard her called that before.
Well, because there was no title, but it sounds better than saying she was the bookkeeper, but she did keep the books. And Nina Bond was the only other lady working in the office. And she wasn't as good with numbers as Teeny was. But then in Jerry's history, and then he started in 1986, Jeff did, and finally he picked up the boots and he said, should the last outlaw ride off into the sunset? Hell no. And then he revealed, I've signed my last wrestling contract. I re-signed with AEW. So he's 56 years old. Or 55, I'm trying to count. Point being, if, probably this is the last contract he signed, but he signed a contract and Tony's going to pay him for another 2 years or 3 years or whatever, I guess. And they've already buried him and his whole crew of misfits. So I don't know what positive is going to come of it. They won't put him in positions that he has experience in that could help this company greatly. But he challenged for the title. He said, I want AEW gold on my last run. I want to get in the Gauntlet match next week. And my New Year's resolution is to become AEW World Champion. Are you excited about where this is going to go?
I'm trying to keep an open mind about it. Because if it really, wrestling is about lying to people. But if it's really his last year, did he say year or just last contract?
Last contract.
So it could be multiple years. I guess that confirms he's not a Triple H guy.
I just don't want to see him have to work with Moxley.
Well, yeah, I think it's more about the road to getting a title match, which could be interesting. That's why I'm not just shitting on this, than the actual title match. And there goes Swami. If Jeff has to...
Swami thinks you're full of shit.
If Jeff has to somehow run through some kind of obstacle course to get there, it could be interesting. I just don't know what the hell that would be.
It could be interesting, or it could also be fucked up like everything else they do. And they've had, 3 or 4 years now to make Jeff... do anything with Jeff.
That's the other problem. If they begin this segment, really, with that promo in the back, Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and the Giant... They've been treated a certain way on that show that you know how you should treat them. So when you begin with Jeff, they should have almost done this where Jeff didn't even reference them. I just went out there and did it.
Can you imagine if they had given Jay Lethal half of the push they've given that fucking Garcia? A guy that can really work, and a guy that can really talk, and a guy that looks like something, and a guy that has experience, and people know who the fuck he is on some level already, and then you start giving him wins over top guys? Imagine that. Or take this fucking bland, mope-faced fucking cretin and let him beat everybody in the company and nobody gives a shit because he's still a bland, mope-faced indie jackoff. That's an option too. I'm editorializing now instead of asking a question, aren't I?
I don't know what your question is, but with Garcia and with Yuta, it's like Tony Khan has 2 Eric Watts. And that's not to put Eric down. It's more about what Eric symbolized and what he really was in 1992. And that's the way it comes across. People are being forced down everyone's throat. Wheeler Yuta is all over these main event segments now. And no one reacts to him. No one reacts to him.
All right, well, anyway.
Well, what did they say a long time ago? A full-grown version of Superhuman. That's what he looks like.
Yes, he looks like, the challenged fellow on the internet that jumps into barbed wire in his backyard. But speaking of mentally challenged individuals, one of the guys in the next segment would have been mentally challenged if I'd have been around, because I would have taken a hammer to his fucking head. I have never seen, even on an AEW television show, this level of just unprofessionalism from some dipshit jackoff that nobody's ever seen or heard of before. Must have been somebody's brother-in-law. Somebody loaned him some tights. I can't believe he ever got booked on a wrestling show or made it through any kind of school acting the way he did. Did you see the two job guys they put Hobbs in with after they beat Hobbs on the pay-per-view?
I was wondering what you were talking about.
For no reason. Then they decide to rehabilitate him by letting him beat up two guys on this TV show. Both of the jobbers looked horrible. Okay, I'm sorry. And they've got FTR and they've got Edge in town. They ought to know two legitimate, decent-looking, athletic indie guys that could come and do a job on national television for who knows how much money. But instead, these two fucking illegitimate sons of goddamn homeless bums under the overpass in Hendersonville. That's North Carolina, in case you're not familiar with the Asheville area. One guy was being a comedian. Did you see it?
I did, and one guy was somewhat smaller even for AEW amongst the wrestlers.
But the comedian was what got me. That's the one I said earlier in the show. If it had been at OVW, at a wrestling school television taping, and I'd seen him do that, I would have come out from behind the announce desk and pulled him out of the ring myself. He was being a fucking comedian, overacting, and trying to draw attention to himself like a jack-off. Phony bullshit. His shit looked horrible. And I want somebody that knows who this motherfucker is to play this for him, so he will know that if Jim Cornette ever saw him in a goddamn wrestling match, I would hit the ring with my tennis racket, and I dare you, you fucking fat, slobby, pissy-looking asshole, do something about it. I've never seen this level of unprofessionalism. The boys should have been waiting for him in the back to kick the shit out of him for acting that way on national television. Fucking asshole. And this is what Hobbs has got to put up with. A fucking star ready to happen. But he's got to deal with these children and their fucking mark bullshit and their playing of the parts of the wrestlers without actually being them. And this guy was playing, oh, I'm going to act scared. Look, I'm pointing at him, how scared I am. And oh, I'm trepidatious and I'll chop him. But oh, I can't hurt him because you hit him like Aunt Clara on Bewitched. Fucking floating, deflated truck stop novelty condom.
Jesus.
Anyway, so that was that guy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this was his big night, his big nationwide TV debut, and Max, he went all out and did all of his shtick. And
I can't, again, that's the kind of shit that guys used to be thrown out in the alley behind the building with their bag on top of them for, and never to be booked again.
Guys didn't want funny jobbers?
No.
You didn't want funny jobbers out there doing bits?
There's no call for funny jobbers doing bits. Speaking of funny jobbers doing bits, so Big Bill and Brian Keith were in the back of the arena with Officer Bar Brady doing a promo, and suddenly they noticed that FTR and Edge were standing 8 feet away from them under hot television lights. They couldn't have seen that until they happened to look in that direction, and then they exchanged the scripted banter that FTR and Edge had to stand there and listen to. Big Bill's dead. This has killed Big Bill deader than Kelsey's nuts. That he has to talk in that stilted manner, deliver this rotten, material be a flunky for Chris Jericho in his senior citizen crisis.
His reaction to Edge's like lame, whatever it was, making fun of his face, he reacted like a child. Like that.
Well, yeah, and Edge, nobody did Edge any favors by giving him any good material either here. And it was all to promote a 6-man tag team match on Saturday that nobody's going to fucking watch anyway. But that, and then MJF, he's in a VTR from last Saturday. He's already gone back to the movie set or wherever, and he doesn't have to deal with these fucking cretins. But he's doing a promo bloody after the match, laughing about beating Adam Cole. And now he wants his title back. And he started talking about Moxley. Under normal circumstances, you want everybody talking about your world champion and wanting to wrestle your world champion. But when your world champion is a delusional, mentally afflicted fucking rehab patient that works like a goddamn cow on ice, you don't want to see your top stars get mixed up in that. So now MJF is talking there. This will be the arrow in the back, no, that's Julia Hart's gimmick. This will be the stake in MJF's heart if he has to get involved with Moxley. He will be no good to anybody else from that point on. And who would be the heel there?
Well, let's see what happens. Like Jeff Jarrett, I guess a lot of guys on the show are now calling out that they want the title. It doesn't necessarily have to be on Moxley. Someone else could be the champion.
We can hope.
I don't know who the hell that would be.
Exactly. So then the man of the hour, the Tower Power, Dick the Boozer, and the rest of the plumbing crew came out through the crowd to the ring to complete silence. When they turned their music off, you can hear a mouse pissing on cotton in the corner. Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been a growing problem. The fans are not... The AEW hardcore fans don't like the Moxley thing, and then the people who don't like AEW don't like the Moxley thing, and the fans don't react to it. This has been a complete swing and a miss every step of the way.
And they could sing Wild Thing. They knew the words. So it was somewhat, there was energy going on. But now this, whatever this is, they're just standing there staring at it. And then out comes FTR again, Romero, a year ago, 2 years ago. You heard their music. The people came up. There was a mild pop for FTR and a bigger pop when it was said from Asheville, North Carolina. Yeah, our town. They've killed them even in their hometown. And then Edge came out and got a big pop. But he used to be a star on real television. And he's lived there quite a while also. But now, they've got somebody the people will still cheer. Because they recognize that they were a big deal in the wrestling business a while back in a big company. And we know he can't be Edge. He has to be Adam Copeland because Edge is trademarked. Trademarked, it's been up a tree. But now his new name is Cope. Here's FTR and Cope. And to make sure we get the idea, they called him Cope with every breath.
Excalibur said it nonstop.
Cope is not going to work as a name for Edge. They need to cope now and get over it. Adam Copeland will work.
Get ready for Cope versus Dope on AEW Dynamite.
Next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central.
Not even the Cope. Not that it's any better, but...
Well, no, what is the Cope?
But what is Cope?
At the Copacabana, he can get that music. Tony will buy it.
What is Cope other than what the AEW fans need to do with the reality of AEW? Cope with it.
They're monkeying with him by giving him a stupid fucking name.
Oh, no, I promise you this is his idea. I promise you.
Well, I promise you
way.
that somebody at a responsible company would have ixnayed it, whether it was his idea or the Pope's idea.
Yeah.
Even if it was the Pope's idea to cope, there'd be no hope for Cope for the Pope.
If FTR really is friends, they didn't say, yeah, this is a bad idea. That's the worst name any wrestler's ever had ever.
So the main event was Wheeler Useless, Claudio, and Dick the Boozer against FTR and Cope. And right as the bell rang, Tony Schiavone plugged the death of Sweet Daddy Siki. So he had a hand in training Cage and Cope and he
Ron Hutchinson.
Ron Hutchinson. He was a real trailblazer for African American. I guarantee you, Tony Schiavone had never fucking seen or heard of Sweet Daddy Siki before 4:00 that afternoon in the production meeting. And Sweet Daddy Siki was a big deal in Ontario, and I'm sure he did have some hand in helping Ron Hutchinson at his school and etc. But a point is, somebody just gave Tony bullet points. Talk about Sweet Daddy Siki. Who? Hey, helped trained Edge. And Ron Hutchinson. Tony, who? The guy that trained Edge. So the reason for this 6-man tag was that the babyfaces stopped the heels from pouring bleach down the mascot's throat. So that old angle, that old chestnut. And I was expecting to write, well, you know, FTR's work is great and Edge knows what he's doing and poor Claudio knows what he's doing. It's just these other fucking two. And then I swear to God, Edge got into a spot with Claudio and Edge couldn't figure out that Claudio was the one supposed to have the headlock. And they started doing the fucking they did something and then came together and Claudio was going to uppercut Edge and then grab him in a headlock. But as he went for the uppercut, Edge grabbed him in a headlock. Well, then Claudio backed him in the ropes, but he was like, he started to shoot him off and then he was telling him, I need to have the head. And then they fucking flummoxed around and then Claudio grabbed the headlock and then Edge shot him off for the spot. I'm like, even these guys, it's contagious. And Schaefer posted Edge. They went to the break. Moxley got on Edge with his fake forearms and the punches that just embarrassing. Cash Wheeler made a great comeback. He, again...
No, always with him. He's always really good.
In the ring, he may be the best. I said Shelton Benjamin was the best wrestler on the roster, and he is because he's gotten over with no help. But Cash may be the best in-ring physical performer, and you never get to see it practically, and he's been made completely meaningless on the card. And, you know, but it's good stuff. And at least they timed their break. They went to their last break at 3 minutes till 10 because they came back on at 10 o'clock so they could get that big overrun. And finally, they built all match to Edge and the plumber getting in. And they got in and faced off with each other and traded forearms. And then Edge went for the spear, but Moxley rolled out. So they fought to the back of the arena and then fought back to the same place they left, and Moxley tagged out. They just had to go back into stands for no fucking reason for 45 seconds. And then Edge and Wheeler got in the ring and did shit while you could see on camera the other 4 guys crouched on the floor in the respective corners just looking up watching, waiting for their cue. Not selling. There wouldn't be anything to sell that long anyway, but just taking a knee and watching what was going on instead of being on the apron involved in the match. I know 15 guys that would have kicked the shit out of all of these guys for doing that stuff, and now they call it that way. So they crotched Edge on the ring post and leveled FTR because they're ineffective and don't matter. And then Moxley put Edge on the desk and took forever. He was going for a pile driver, but he was milking it. And then you realize he was taking so long and milking it, and time was standing still because Jay White had to come to hit the ring behind everybody's back and hit his finish on Wheeler. And then Claudio and Schaefer chased Jay White to the entranceway. And Edge backdropped Moxley on the announce desk, and then the camera panned over, or they pulled up the shot of Claudio and Marina Schaefer at the tunnel standing there staring at Jay White. And they missed the shot of Edge spearing Moxley through the railing. And then all three babyfaces suddenly jumped up into the ring, and FTR hit their finish on Wheeler, and Edge speared him 1, 2, 3. Because the hometown guys had to win, and nobody's going to beat Moxley, so everybody beats Useless. And Jay White was necessary in this confusing fucking mess because he has some issue going on with these other fuckers. And you can't expect any kind of coherence when you're trying to keep 18 alleged angles alive all at the same time. So there you go, and that was that show. What'd you think?
I mean, there were moments the people there really seemed to get into it. There were also some cold tags.
Ugh.
I'm not a big Edge fan, and I never really have been. And I think he was a main eventer in a period of time where there weren't a lot of main eventers still there because a lot of guys were starting to leave. And also when the company was the main event more than the actual wrestlers. And since he returned to WWE and then came to AEW, I just haven't enjoyed any of his stuff. And then you start thinking like, well, they keep telling me he's a legend. But I don't really like anything he does. I hate his promos.
Well, remember, I was more complimentary, especially when he was in the WWE, because the shit made sense, came together, did get a little dramatic at points, but I was pulling for him. He's a heck of a guy. But, you know, especially after this last time when he jumped off the cage and hurt himself, he's been gone so long, he comes back and everything else is so dreary. There's nothing that he can get into that you really think he can lift up or do anything with.
Yeah, see, I don't think there's much excitement about Cope versus Dope. I don't think a lot of people want to see him against Moxley. I don't think FTR has any excitement from any fans right now. Because this was the best case scenario. Hometown fans.
They just gave $25,000 to the city and they still couldn't get a standing ovation.
I don't know. I think that all these guys have had a lot of damage and we blame Tony, but a lot of it is also self-induced. When you decide you're going to be Cope, and he put up a picture on social media, or someone did, of him and his attorney, like celebrating that they got the notice that they trademarked Cope.
Oh, good God.
So this has been in the plannings for a while.
Oh, boy.
And I think he's going to have to cope with the fact that no one likes his name. And he's going to have to cope with the fact that this is a bad idea. And Adam Copeland, actually, it's not as good as Edge because Edge was established. But it's as good as you're going to get.
They knew who Edge was, though, because of the modern idea of, you know, talking about people by their real names as well in publicity. And the fans have kind of figured out that Adam Copeland was Edge's real name.
Yeah, I mean, the song says you don't know me. Yeah, because you keep changing your fucking name. Just pick one and stick with it. I get you can't use Edge, but we've already seen you as Adam on this show for a while. You broke your leg, you were Adam Copeland. You come back, you're just Cope.
Couldn't he have been Corner?
What?
If he couldn't be Edge, could he be Corner?
Yeah, you know, that's the thing. Could he be the Edge? Could he change his name legally to Edge Copeland?
Well, no, then the U2 guy would get on him, wouldn't he?
Well, I mean, it's two Stings. It's two different forms of entertainment. Unless he puts out an album, then he'd be fine.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, they had a fight over that. Fucking Steve Borden finally put him in a Scorpion Deathlock, and Sting was like, oh, Roxanne, come help me out of this Scorpion Deathlock. You win.
Another one in your vocal range. Yeah, you're very fortunate here today.
Roxanne, you don't want to turn on your TV. AEW's on tonight. You don't want to see this stuff, I'm telling you. Go out and turn tricks.
That's the problem.
Take sperm from strangers.
All right.
It'll be more fun than watching AEW.
Will you stop it? But that's
Roxanne.
But that's the problem here. You have FTR who've barely been on this show. They've been on Collision, I guess, I assume. But the fans, this is their hometown crowd. This is the best it's going to get. Adam Copeland hasn't been on this show. He's now back. Moxley's been all over this show. And the fans don't want to see him anymore, and they don't react to him. And then Claudio, Marina, and Wheeler, yeah, that is his name, Wheeler,
yeah,
are just charisma vacuums.
What happened to Pac? He's in the group. He doesn't come to work anymore. Not that I'm complaining.
He probably needs a visa renewal. It's that time of the
Well,
year.
I thought Moxley was the king of that country. He should be able to wave his scepter and get Pac in.
Yeah, well, that's but then they get that moment. This is how many times that happened with Pac, where he's in the middle of stuff, he disappears, you don't even notice, and then a few weeks later, you're like, hey, where's Pac? And then a couple months later, he just shows up again, like, oh my God, it's Pac. He's returned from the abyss more times than anyone in AEW, and that was Dynamite.